I am live. Welcome to NoChaNoMa, Simon's living room. If you're wondering what on earth is going on, this is James Bond. And I am channeling Sean Connery for the next 30 seconds because a certain lady in Shikoku called Tomo has asked me to do this. So I am doing it. And that's the end of that. And welcome to NoChaNoMa, Simon's living room. I shall now bring on the guest. And Radrey has asked that music should start the show. Well, it will. And I shall do it now. Welcome to Jazz Samurai. We are here in Jazz Bar Samurai in Shinjuku. And he is here ready to entertain us all. Welcome to Phil Smythe, otherwise known as Jazz Samurai.
Hey, everybody. Not jazzy at all. Life is so wonderful. Sun shines down like a waterfall, and bird song fills the air. But I'm drowning and nobody cares. You had a smiling face, flash of that made my heart race. But ever since you've gone, there's no music in my song. If you should see me crying, well, at least that means I'm still here. If I ever give up trying, well, please just hold me dear. Life is so wonderful. If you don't try to think of it all, it mostly seems to be the muddiness of the sea. If you should see me crying, well, at least that means you're still here. If I ever give up trying, well, please just hold me dear. Ya da 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 da. Everybody can sing. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Old cars mostly turn to rust. Flashlights only turn dark to dusk, and so became us. This is longer than you thought, I think.
Yeah, I'm quite happy.
It's so wonderful. Sun shines down like a waterfall, and bird song fills the air. I love the life we shared. I love the life we shared.
Hooray! Applause, audience, please. Applause. On the old Hangouts, you used to have an app that made applause sounds, so I have to do it manually. Thank you, Phil. Or Jazz Samurai.
Well, that killed 5 minutes.
It did kill Phil for 5 minutes, but you've had 40 years to practice, which I shall come on.
Surprising.
Let's just do some introductions. Hello, it's me. Everybody knows me. This is Phil. This is Phil from Canada originally, and now where are you, Phil?
I live in Tohoku, which northeastern Japan, famous for earthquakes and tsunamis.
And itinerant jazz musicians.
And itinerant jazz musicians. Yeah.
And how long have you been in Tohoku or Japan?
I have been living here for 8 years, I believe.
All right.
7 to 8 years in there.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of mid-termer.
And prior to that, we were talking earlier. You've been around. And you actually live not far from me while I was living here, and we never met and never knew each other. So,
well, maybe we did. If you ever frequented any bars in downtown Antwerp, then we probably did meet each other.
Possibly, yes. You were that guy at the bar with the guitar.
Yes, yeah.
Hang on. What's going on? What's going on in the comments?
They're all freaking out about my poster back there.
Oh, right. Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
I've got the Star Trek 6 poster over there. I didn't want to put them both in the same shot in case I look too geeky.
Tomo is here. Tomo, did you catch it? Tomo from Shikoku is here. Did you catch my James Bond impression? I've got my James Bond outfit for you. Oh, dear. Do you speak Tohoku Ben? She's asking.
No, but I went out with him once.
Tohoku Ben.
Sorry. Bad joke.
Kabum Tish. Yes,
Yeah.
it's our age, isn't it, really? Yes.
Yeah.
Dad jokes.
So yeah, I lived in Belgium, Ireland, Belgium, Holland, Spain, Germany, Switzerland, and then Japan, and of course Canada and America, of course.
Of course. Of course, we can tell from the voice. Yes.
Yeah.
So we've just had a bit of folk, right? And so jazz samurai. Now, you were telling me earlier that sort of you didn't really become interested in Japan until you got off the plane in Japan. And what did you say? What did you say when you got off the plane? Between getting off the plane at Narita and getting on the bus, what did you say?
I said, I'm going to live in this place. Yeah, I got off the plane. Obviously, Narita, is a pretty amazing airport. It convinced me to live here.
But prior to that, you had no interest in Japan. So the samurai bit has come since then. But the jazz bit dates to when? When did you...
Well, I started to play music, despite what anybody might have heard in that opening intro that was horrible. I started to play music, I think, when I was 7 or 8. And I started to play guitar when I was about 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was about 635 years ago. And
shush! No, I'm only a year older than you. Shush!
And so yeah, but I've been playing guitar since then, and I started out playing jazz. I mean, I as a kid, of course, in the 70s, kind of that rock stuff, and I grew up very close to Detroit. I was in Canada, but close to Detroit, so that kind of rock was influential. But I really got into jazz, and I was in a high school. I went to a great high school that had a really good music program, and that was kind of run by these two guys who are great jazz musicians. And I got into jazz quite young, about 13 or 14, and I did my first professional gig at 16.
Oh, wow.
And so I was solely a professional musician from 16 to 30.
So that was your bread and butter, really. Yeah. Wow.
Well, it was a little crust of bread.
Oh, right. Yeah. You had to maintain the jazz image of living in a little sort of apartment and struggling artists.
Yeah.
But I mean, who were your influences then? And when you got in, you say you really got into jazz. Which jazz greats were your kind of...
Well, I was fortunate at that time, late 70s or early 80s, and so much great fusion music. So there's a lot of great stuff like Weather Report and John McLaughlin and Mahavishnu Orchestra, and all that stuff from that time, and the early Pat Metheny and that kind of stuff. But professionally, I was a bass player. Because there's bass players a few and far between, and I had an affinity for it because I'm not a fast person in any way. Like, my brain is not fast and my fingers are not fast, and so as a guitar player, people judge you primarily on how fast you can play. And
get those like all that sort of like complicated breaks.
God rest Eddie Van Halen's soul, but I mean, he's responsible for a lot of that damage. But well, that's not really true. It started long before that. But speed is of the essence as a guitar player, And as a bass player, well, like I always kind of saw myself as a composer and a songwriter, and I do a lot of that still. Like so like instrumental composition and songwriting and things like that. So I was focused more on the harmony and everything, and I think that as a bass player you get to experience a lot more of that. And also as a bass player, when you're doing recording, you record first, and so you have the rest of the sessions
just to
sit
chill
in
out
the control room and listen to how the thing works, you know.
Yeah.
While the guitar players are busy, you know, getting their hair done.
I'm getting a question from Pablo in Arizona here. I shall put it up on the screen because unfortunately, for some reason, this app doesn't allow the guest to comment. But Pablo G asks, "Is Phil into Carlos Santana?"
Yes, yeah. I mean, I love that early. I love the early Santana stuff. You know, even like the Woodstock stuff and things like that. You know, I'm really into that. I think everybody degenerated in the '80s, unfortunately. But
oh, yes. I mean, the '80s. Let's not dwell on the '80s.
No, let's not dwell on the '80s.
No, it was. You know, it surprised me there because I was thinking. Those bands I vaguely heard of that you mentioned that your influence, the fusion bands, but so. I mean, I like jazz. I like West Coast cool jazz, Jerry Mulligan and that kind of stuff.
I mean, there's such a jazz. First of all, is such a massive term. You know, there was a guy on BBC, Jeffrey Smith. Do you ever listen to Jeffrey Smith Jazz? He did a great show for years and years and years on BBC Radio, and he. So much stuff I learned from listening to that show. But yeah, I mean, the West Coast stuff, or, you know, Bill Evans or, you know, Lee Konitz and all these people like this, you know, a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, not a lot of great, I'll get slagged for that, but not a lot of great guitar players, in my opinion. You know, like guitar is not.
Yeah, it's a rare kind of thing, you know. I mean, there's names escape me, but
you know,
I mean,
like Jim Hall or you know, or Joe Pass and those kind of guys like that. But you don't have a lot, slim pickings compared to, let's say, if you want to reel off 100 top sax players in jazz, you know.
Oh yeah. Another thing, I mean, it's slightly sort of a bit left field, is that, and also on a previous show with the shamisen players, they'd studied jazz as part of their, one of them studied jazz, and one of the questions to her was that in jazz itself, there are not a lot of female musicians, female singers, but musicians are few and far between. I mean, I know two. Toshio Ashioki, I've forgotten her name, and another one. What's she called?
You've got Hiromi, of course.
Hiromi, you know? That's it. Hiromi Uhara, yes.
You know, well, I mean, she's amazing. You know, utterly amazing. I've seen her live a couple of times.
Oh, you lucky bug!
And man, the band, she had an amazing. She played with the 3-piece up here.
That's right. The sort of
Simon Phillips and Anthony Jackson.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! You know, sorry.
You were looking at Anthony Jackson and going, God, I wish I could play like that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, he's a monster, you know, and she's her approach is really interesting. But there aren't a lot of female jazz musicians throughout jazz history. Unfortunately, there's not a lot. You know, people like Carla Bley or somebody like that. But
yes, I sometimes think I'll get some jazz now to listen to from the library, and I think I'll look for I'll just make it balanced and look for a sort of woman jazz player. Nope.
This Perk person, they mentioned Martin Taylor. Martin Taylor. He's a monster. You know.
Oh, I should have to check him out tomorrow at the library.
Oh yeah, he's great. I mean, and tons of stuff, and he does a really. I like his approach. He does some great ragtime. I love ragtime music, and he does some amazing ragtime.
One of your many followers has flooded in. I've posted his comment there for you.
I'm not gonna. Oh, you want me to bring the Greco? Okay, yeah.
That was. I saw your review of that. Yeah.
I just realized I was going to buy a guitar. Hold on. You might be able to watch me buy a guitar live on the air.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Let's see.
Do you have to bid for it?
Yeah, I'm bidding for it.
All right. 28,000. 28,500. 28,000. Oh, that's cheap, actually. 200,000.
I can think about it anyway. Keep on going.
I'm keeping on going. Here we go.
No. But yeah, so it's you know, I don't call myself a jazz musician. This whole jazz samurai moniker came about because when I play live, when I do like my own shows, I wear kimono.
Yes, I saw. And you for the Sendai Jazz Festival, which can't go ahead.
Whenever I do, and I same in, like when I go to Canada or UK or wherever and play, I wear kimono. And so one time here in Japan, some drunk guy said, "Oh, you're like a jazz samurai," and I was like, "Ooh, okay, that's a good idea. That's a good name.
Cool name, yeah."
And so I went with that, and it was a Japanese person who named me, so I don't consider
it's valid. It's valid.
Cultural misappropriation.
So are you booked then when you do gigs as Jazz Samurai, or are you booked as Phil?
I try to just use the Jazz Samurai brand. I'm trying to build the brand, but
okay. Cups, mugs, T-shirts are available.
Yes,
after the show.
Sure. What's auction sniping? I don't even know what auction sniping is.
It's what I was pretending to do when you were like I was like trying to raise the price.
Yeah. A few guitars for sale. Yeah, I have a bit of a guitar addiction. I haven't bought a guitar in months and months and months. But there's an unusual one up for sale tonight. We shall not,
interfere too much in the purchase of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously now because of this current situation, and I noticed you did that Sendai Festival, what do you call it? Reel.
Yes.
For want of a better word. Anybody watching in the comments, go to Jazz Samurai channel and you can see it. Phil singing more. She's a Woman by the Beatles. He did, which was rather good. I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
And I also actually enjoyed the one I used for the advert, the Herbie Hancock Cantaloupe Island.
Yeah. Isn't it? So one of my things on the YouTube channel, I'm going through this book. This book here, which is the Jazz Standard Bible, which is like all the standards. And in Japan, you can only play from a book. Improvisation. Anyway, so I'm going through this book and I'm going to play the entire thing. And so I'm up to page 40. So probably I'll finish and then die.
Okay.
But yeah,
it's that long. The book is that long.
Yeah. So yeah, it was Cantaloupe Island, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I listened to the original last night just to sort of because I thought it was a guitar and bass song, and then no, it's a trumpet.
Yeah.
But I should advise viewers, if you don't know Cantaloupe Island, if you've heard the advert, go and check it out. It's rather sort of relaxing, chill. 1964, Herbie Hancock. Cantaloupe Island. You'll probably recognize it. It's a very sort of famous kind of jazz song, but
just gonna give you a custom, because I can't type in the box. I would put a link in there, but just to my channel. I'm gonna try and see if I can do something clever.
This is YouTube. It may work, it may not.
Well, but please continue.
That was a very un-James Bond laugh. Nosh says he hasn't bought a guitar in 43 years.
Wow.
I haven't bought a guitar in 54 years.
Impressive. You're restrained. So, if you go to bit.ly, so bit.ly/JazFun, Jazz Sam,
Mm.
then that'll go to my YouTube channel.
But I mean, I did put the link to your channel in the description for this show and also in the advert, so you could all do that. I'm looking very classy. Yes, it's all very cheap though. This is a school shirt from when I was 15. This is a bow tie from a costume shop, and this is a jacket, rather okay jacket that I got secondhand in England once. So it's all
setting that you can fit into a shirt from when you were 15, but
yeah, not changed much. Just got grayer and more wrinkly.
Yeah.
So apart from, I mean, you go around in your kimono doing, I mean, the Sendai Jazz Festival, Johenji, is it called? I can't remember. Jozenji Jazz Festival. That's obviously been cancelled. Are they doing anything about it? Are they doing are they trying to do it online or anything?
They're doing some online thing, but their YouTube channel, I think, has perhaps fewer subscribers than me, which is takes some effort. So I don't know if anything is really happening there. And it's tough. I mean, it's such a difficult time because this year I was going to be going to play in the UK at a couple of festivals, and those got canceled. And normally I go and play in Canada as well. I mean, music is no longer my bread and butter. But it's still the thing I do.
For those interested in what Phil does for his bread and butter, please go and watch on Twitch Radrey's interview with Phil, which explains all that. But basically, yes, you're
I'm a 1%er.
Yes, yeah, as an internet company man, multiple internet company man. But I'm going to change
my other poster in the shot there.
What's that behind? What's that by your guitars? I can't see. What is it?
Yeah, it's the glare. I think it's not going to work. That I should move it, because I should have put it there. That's a cooler poster, because it's Logan's Run.
Oh, blimey! Yes,
man, I love that movie.
Or watch it on YouTube, says Rad. Yes, you could watch it on Wycombe Japan on YouTube, on Radrey's channel, and it will have the edited version. I saw the live version, which is where I saw Phil, which is why I asked Phil to join me on my show. Logan's Run, yes. Jenny Agutter in a short dress.
I think it's the only film I went and saw with my father ever. And I remember he tried to distract me during that. The scene where she has to change or whatever it is. I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, those embarrassing moments when you're watching something with your parents and they've forgotten or didn't realize there was going to be such a scene coming on.
Yeah. And my parents are British, and so like any kind of, I don't think British people get naked. So
just down to our Y friends.
Yes, exactly. So I think there was my father there was a sense of, oh my God, she's going to get naked in the movie as the movie was playing.
Yeah. Everybody's now Googling Logan's Run.
Jenny Agutter, wow. I mean,
it's a long way from the Railway Children. All right, I'm talking completely different tack now. So we may get back to jazz. I shall be hoping for some more musical time fillers. But your internet companies are what keep you in house and home in Japan. But I've read your book, actually, or at least 6 chapters of it that you're allowed to look at on Amazon. And
book.
What book?
You mean my book?
Your book that nobody buys.
Wow. Okay.
So yes, another string to Phil's bow is actually he wrote a book, and it was in the reason he wrote it is quite interesting, and the reason he had it published is quite interesting, and the reason that nobody reads it, apart from one elementary school teacher retired who said it was really good, and she's looking forward to the sequels. That was a review on Amazon. And could you please explain, a little, you would be more, it was a book that you wrote based on a dream.
Yeah. So, and I had the dream when I was 16. And so I had, no, that's not that's the other book that nobody reads. So yeah, I had this dream when I was 16 years old, and then it kind of percolated in my brain. And I think when I was in my early 20s, I said, oh, this dream is stuck with me. I'm going to write it. And so I wrote the book in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't like it. So I put it in the shelf, in the drawer. And because I'd literally written it longhand. And so I literally put it in a drawer. And then in my 30s or so, I said, I'm going to write it. Maybe it's better as a movie. So I'm going to write it as a script. So I wrote it as a script. And then I put that in a drawer. And then I went back some years later and I read the script and I said, oh, it's not bad. But I think maybe, obviously, I'm never going to make a movie of it. So let's make it as a book. So I rewrote it again as a book. And then I was in... trying to think of the timeline, but I think I was in New Zealand.
Not living, just visiting.
I was there for 6 weeks.
Oh well, that doesn't count.
This is bizarre in and of itself. I was living in the library of a school, of a Maori school.
And a Maori school for that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And one of the few Maori language schools in New Zealand, and out in the middle of nowhere. And I was living in the library, and I was there to talk to the students and the community about how you can use technology to live remotely and still be in touch with the world and make money and so on like that. And one of the things we talked about with the kids is, you can write books and people are fascinated about your culture, the Maori culture. So we wrote this book, which Pablo references, which is called Haratanga. And the kids wrote the book, actually. And it's kind of like A is for apple, but in Maori. And they published that book. And then when I came back to Japan, I said, you know what? If a bunch of Maori kids 10 years old can publish a book, by God, I can publish my book. So I cobbled it together and got a cover and whatever and put the book out on Amazon and launched it to a glorious fanfare of absolute crickets. I mean, actually, I would have been happy with crickets.
Yeah.
I think it was fleas.
Oh, Radrey says he didn't find the book. Oh, it's I found it. Yeah, if you type Phil Smyth books into Google, it will come up. It's a children's story, isn't it? Really?
It is.
Yeah, and about a little boy who gets travels through time to ancient Egypt and something, and they only had 6 chapters. And a synopsis. The retired elementary school teacher gave me the synopsis, luckily, in her review, because the first 6 chapters are just when he goes to his aunt's house and sort of plays marbles or something.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, what was interesting, I found, was your reasons for writing it, and that you said, whether it takes you 2, 5, or 35 years, ideally not 35 years, is to create something, good, and that you can leave behind, as it were. Because you said, obviously, we all pop off, and this is something that you did for that. I mean, I didn't realize about the Haratunga. That's new to me, obviously, but that was your kind of motivation to get it out there. But and as you said in your description or in your blog about it, that it wasn't 100%. You're not 100% happy with it, but you got it out there. You did it. I found that quite an interesting point of view.
Yeah. I think for me it's a bit weird living in Japan. That Japan is really hooked on perfection. Perfection is like the crack cocaine of Japan, in my opinion. And, because they can't have crack cocaine, so they got to have something. So they have perfection. And it's very, very damaging, and the value that's put on perfection here, I think. And
Ask an English teacher.
Hmm?
Ask English teachers in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my wife talks about when she was studying English in high school here in Japan, and how they said, you shouldn't speak it until you can do it perfectly. And it's like, well, I don't speak English perfectly,
Yeah.
So so there is this thing about it, about perfection, and I realized that it's not about perfection. I knew this all along, I think, but it's about an attempt. And of course, I'm not saying you should be crappy. I think it's worse to say, not be able to look at something critically and say, what I've made is not good. You should be able to look at whatever you do critically, but you shouldn't worry if it's perfect or not.
Well, yeah. I mean, I did my degree in fine art, and I can assure you, you had to get stuff out. Otherwise they would kick you out. So
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have to worry too much if it was perfect or not.
I just did this video over on the business channel, where I'm talking about 7 habits of an internet entrepreneur or whatever, some kind of clickbaity crappy title like that. And one of those things is volume, not perfection. That certainly in the arts, the more you do, the better you become. And you can. I do the 80%. You want to make the 80% good. And it's the same thing for business. Like I'll launch a product or launch a service or whatever when I think it's 80% of the way there. And if anybody actually bothers to be interested in it, then maybe I'll think about doing the other 20%. And I think with arts and everything like that, you just got to crank through it. And the classic example, of course, is Picasso, who did like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of work, for the 50 that are famous.
Oh, this describes YouTubers, looking at you, Radrey, and me, down to a T. We just crank it out and hope that some of it will stick and be good. And
but let me just interject here for a second. That doing the same thing over and over again, it's a double-sided coin, or not. It's a continuation or whatever. You have to produce volume, but you have to look back and say, okay, I'm going to improve it in this level. I'm going to improve it in that level. I'm going to improve it in that level, and make micro adjustments in the next thing. You just keep hitting yourself in the head with a hammer. I don't think
you might go viral, or you might end up in hospital.
Nailed, funnily enough. This guitar has gone out of my price range. So
oh, sorry about that. We were talking so long that we
no. It's still going, but I'm just not gonna. But so I think that producing a lot of work, and like I'm not a great guitar player. I'm an adequate guitar player, and but I practice every day. I do half an hour every day.
Wow.
And I have like that half an hour broken down into so many minutes of fundamentals, and so many minutes of doing this and so many minutes of doing that. So I practice focused learning every day on that. And I've been doing that for 40 years. You'd think I'd be amazing by now, but you have a brick wall of inability that you're going to hit eventually.
Radrey says something about Sturgeon's law. Never heard of that, but I mean,
no.
You'd have to explain that, Radrey. I mean, it probably means something.
Does that have something to do with caviar?
Sturgeon's law. If you eat enough caviar, you'll convince yourself you're rich. Something like that.
That's Beluga's law. Sorry, totally wrong.
So it's at that point of the show where I have to segue and back to jazz, which would be good. But could we segue with something? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot here, but. What could we segue with?
Chat for a minute, and I'll think of something.
Right. Well, Phil is thinking.
Yeah.
I shall do my usual and announce what's going to happen next week. Next week will be an earlier show. because we'll be coming live from Fukui. Well, I won't be. I'll be in my comfortable living room. But Charlie no Saikatsu, who's been on the show before, he'll be doing his out and about wanderings. And I promised him that I would start earlier so he could wander about in remains of the daylight. So he'll be the guest next week. 50% of everything is below average. Yes. 90% of everything is garbage. Yes, well, yeah. I mean, this is why I keep doing the show, to perfect it, really. And while I've been rabbiting on, Phil has come up with an appropriate song or tune, and I shall now be quiet. And
I may illustrate how bad I am. I'm totally unprepared. I wasn't expecting to actually play. So
yes, I have this effect on my guests.
Right. Let me just. I'll play like 30 seconds of this.
Oh, come on! I can't last for that.
You know, we're old. 30 seconds is about as long as we can last. Sorry. Nope. We're going to stop right there.
All right. Hold
on. I'm going to pick something better.
There's a pill for that.
I gotta find a set list or something. I'm totally unprepared. You know?
All right, 90% of everything is garbage. That's Sturgeon's law. Sturgeon's a miserable git.
Really? 90% of everything is garbage is Sturgeon's law?
Yes. Guy had issues, obviously.
Yeah. God. Yeah. His kids must have felt good. Yeah. What kind of? I don't know. What should I play? I don't know what to play.
Something mellow. Something just to like. Yes.
What's Radley? Just why does he say Phil?
Phil. I don't know. Phil. Come on, Phil. Updates on COVID numbers. Oh right. Updates on Phil. Updates on COVID numbers, man. You have to go to his website. That.
Yeah, that's pretty depressing, isn't it?
Yes, like it's a blues song. Then there we are. You know,
okay,
jazz.
I'll just do it because I'm gonna play with a pick for this one. I shouldn't have had that drink before. Six separate occasions, out taking a walk. I went over to your house, leave me just to talk. I rang the doorbell, I knocked on the glass. It's opened up by a boyfriend, he wants to bust my ass. That's what you're into, love true and true. And it'll be crazy, I guarantee you. Let me tell you, baby, that's something Einstein never knew. If E is energy and M is the mass, then C is the speed of my heart when you pass. I spend months and months watching, taking notes from afar. Now, baby, I'm ready. Just tell me you are. That's what you're into. Love true and true. And it'll be crazy, I guarantee you. Let me tell you, baby, that's something Einstein never knew. I'm just a man who hopes the universe will come through. I got a plan, I'm wondering what will entropy do with you. Let's face it, I'm just a hack, stealing ideas I hope to sell back. I ain't much to look at, I don't have a car. All I know is light waves will take me right to where you are. That's what you're into, love true and true. And it'll be crazy, guarantee you. Let me tell you, baby, That's something Einstein. Let me tell you, baby. That's something Einstein. Let me tell you, baby. That's something Einstein never knew.
Hooray! We're getting claps. We got
There
claps
we go.
earlier. Is that a standard, or is that something you wrote yourself?
That is something I wrote myself.
Ah, yes.
Sorry, that's the only thing I can remember.
And we won't get copyrighted. That's fantastic, unless you.
You're not going to get a copyright strike.
Copyright yourself.
I'm going to quickly do that so that when you put this up, it can get notification.
Self-promotion by copyright.
You know what's interesting? So I've been doing this whole jazz standard series, and I'm up to like song 35 or something like that. On one of them, I've had a copyright strike, and I thought, oh, that means I've actually done it well enough that it can be recognized by the AI as actually being that song.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything, but when I made the advert, and it was Herbie Hancock, Cantaloupe Island, I thought I would get copyright.
No, I didn't get struck on that one. So
No,
it's
so
not good
it's
enough.
all right.
I use that as a method of judging myself.
Now, the reason I asked you to swing back into jazz there was that you're in Japan, and one of the things I sort of in the description of this for people to come and watch was just pretend you're in a cafe, in a library, in the supermarket, in Don Quixote, anywhere you are in Japan. And chill out and listen to jazz, because it's everywhere.
It is
there.
everywhere. It's amazing.
Bye, Perk. I think
Yeah.
Perk lives in Spain, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah,
Great.
anyway.
I used to live down in Andalusia. He's gone, I think.
I think he's gone. But yeah, jazz is everywhere, and I was curious about it. I mean, it was there when I went first time, and it was there. It was nice. Going into any place here that plays music, and it's just pop music, which as we've been said in the comments before, you can't judge music too harshly. Everybody likes something, but I mean, if you like jazz, you're a bit stuck here in Europe if you want to go and listen. But like I said, you can go anywhere in Japan, in supermarket, doctor's office, Don Quixote, and there's jazz playing in the background, which is rather kind of chill.
And it's not just like crappy music either, not elevator music. Like my local supermarket, I stood there one time in amazement, because it's like they're playing John Coltrane. It's like Love Supreme. I'm not kidding, Love Supreme. And I'm like, this is just the surreality of living in Japan. And it's what's interesting to me is that the life is here quite surreal, and but they haven't transported that into their mainstream art. So like on TV dramas and everything, they've pushed out any kind of weirdness out of that, which is really strange, and that they don't embrace. Well, they don't like weird here, so I think that maybe that's part of it.
That being said, I have seen some pretty weird Japanese films. So I mean,
we all have Pornhub.
No, but I mean, seriously, sort of strange films.
Yes.
Although sometimes it appears a bit like forced. Like we're being strange because it's expected, it's weird Japan kind of thing. Yeah. But the jazz thing, I looked it up. Since when? I mean, obviously, jazz has been going since sort of the early 1900s. And when did it hit Japan? It hit Japan in the 1920s, and the first jazz cafe opened in Osaka in 1933. This is Simon's NoChaNoMa Wikipedia. But it was embraced, really. People sort of bought the records and started clubs and everything. And apparently it is in the world the most jazzified place. That's not quite what it said. I was looking it up, but
I can believe that for sure. I mean, I love Murakami, the writer, as I said in the pre-show, and Murakami talks a lot about jazz and a lot about records, and I guess he himself is a jazz fan or whatever. But you still have, they're rare now, but you still have these coffee shops, that are run by jazz fans, and there's some amazing audio equipment here as well. Like you go into, I'm addicted not only to buying guitars, but like to going to Hard Off and Book Off and these second-hand places, and the stereo equipment that they have in there is just like stuff that we would die for. I remember as kids in the 70s, like, one day I hope I can actually touch, a Macintosh amplifier or something like that. And in the Hard Off, not too far from me, they have like 10 Macintosh amps, that are like $3,000 a pop or whatever it is. And these speakers, amazing speakers from the 70s and stuff like this. It's the audio equipment here. I think that's part of the upside of perfection,
Yes, it would be best to have the best, And then when the next thing comes out, they put their very well looked after thing in Hard Off, and us poor Westerns can go there and get it cheap.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting to have, when I hopefully I'm moving to a bigger place, and then I'm gonna get one of these awesome stereos, I think.
So I kind of lost my track there because I was just looking at the comments. Radrey saying, I think Japan wants to think they're normal. Just go on 4chan. No, I won't. No. But so it's all around in Japan. It's kind of pervasive. I mean, and this festival has been cancelled. I mean, even in sort of the out of Tokyo in the Inaka, they have it's jazz everywhere.
I would argue that maybe out of Tokyo there's even more. I've been into some places, tiny places around, because I'm in Tohoku. I'm not far from the countryside, not far from the Inaka, that's for sure. And we can drive someplace on the weekend and stop in for coffee, and it'll be one of these little record playing. We were just up in some place the other week. This guy built his own speakers, and he was like hardcore audiophile, and it was just like this shack made out of logs. Anyway, but the jazz music there is incredible. Really incredible.
I mean, it could almost be a reason to go and live there if you were a jazz fan.
Yeah. And also, as a foreigner, if you're antisocial like me, you don't actually have to talk to anybody. So it's pretty brilliant.
It's like me in Belgium, but I mean, there's probably is jazz in Belgium, but Pablo is saying he's learning how to play the acoustic guitar, so it's cool how this stream coincides and it's inspiring. Well, there we are. Yeah. That's my 80% rule box ticked for today. I've done something good today.
Yeah, it's I mean, I love living here, but it is sometimes it's a bit like the ending of 2001 Space Oddity, but sometimes
it depends what you drink,
Yeah, I guess, but in general, I don't, people why do I like living in Japan? And the thing is, I don't really have anything negative I can say about it, which is amazing.
We were discussing before that you can't really completely fit in, and there's a whole and the mindset.
Yeah, for me, that's not a negative. It kind of gives me a little bit of fame gratification that I get recognized everywhere, and that people in the grocery store are like, oh, you're buying that this time. Normally you buy this. I'm like, huh?
Oh, they know me.
How is the ending of 2001? Have you never seen 2001?
He's young, Radrey's young. He's still young. So
he's probably born after 2001.
Ooh, I don't know. But it's kind of like a cosmic baby, and lots of psychedelic colors, and I can't remember much after that.
Well, last 25 minutes, I defy anybody to explain what that is. But
Yes, I mean, when he starts sort of seeing the colors coming towards him, and it gets a bit weird. Yeah.
It's like Stanley Kubrick saying, "I've got 1.5 million left in the effects budget. Do something."
Yeah, and this was 1968, so they sort of required lots of mechanical stuff, no CGI then. Yeah. So yes, just Google end of 2001.
Watch it. Just watch the movie.
Watch the movie. And
I remember the first time I saw that movie. First time I saw 2001. Maybe it wasn't the first time, but I saw it in a cinema. It must have been mid 80s, I guess, mid 80s, and it was just like, wow. And
miles better than the sequel. The sequel was a bit of like an
2010.
Non-event. Yes, they didn't quite. It doesn't quite gel with. I mean, already 2001 doesn't quite gel with current reality in 21st century.
Yeah,
but, I know. But sort of by now we should be
2010, if I'm not mistaken. The soundtrack was done by Andy Summers of The Police.
I can't remember who it was for 2001.
It was all. Was that the Wendy Walter Carlos one, or was that Clockwork Orange? I can't remember.
Oh, he's seen it 5 times, and he still can't remember the end. It gets better every time.
There you go. Or maybe he's talking about 2010.
You have to clarify that, Radrey. We could be dissing a film that you might quite like, but never know.
Yeah. Or he's just been unfortunate enough to see it 5 times. But wow. What else can we talk about? I don't know how long we're supposed to talk. I can talk all night. I got nothing better to do.
Okay, well, I've got another 8 minutes, and then I have to go and pick up my son and take him for a driving lesson. So I better not have too much more on this. So, at some point in the future, my son will pass his driving lesson like the first one did, and I will no longer have that excuse. Cut the show short. What else can we talk about? We can talk about sort of.
So you have a degree in fine arts.
Yes, I do. Yes, which is much use as a chocolate fireplace. So, video art. And so I kind of know the front and back of a camera, and basically what they it all sounds quite technical and everything, but we will just basically said, here's a camera, go out and produce art, and our technician we'll do all the difficult work for you. You can just like do the creative bit
because you're an artist.
You're an artist, and at the end of the week or the end of the month, come and show us what you've done and explain it, which is the hardest part. And also I discovered that video art and film and video art are very, 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 very niche and esoteric. And even the painters and the sculptors were all like, God, they're a bit weird. Which it doesn't bode well when if you want to make a living. But
I have a master's in film.
Oh, that's right. Yes, we could talk about that.
That's why I've got Star Trek 3 poster on the wall. That's how erudite I am in the world of film. And but film,
mainstream film you're talking about here, rather than art film.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I don't know. I mean, film is a collaborative medium, and I think what I learned through my masters was that I'm just not a collaborative type of person. So. Yeah.
Well, you could be a video artist. They go out on their own thing, and nobody will watch it. So it ties in nicely with your book idea.
There we go. I've got a theme going on.
Yeah, you put your 80% into your video art, and it ends up in a gallery, and people walk past it and ignore it.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, they're setting something up over there." Yeah. But if there's things about film that I do like. And I like editing. I love editing, actually. I love editing film, and I've done that quite a bit. And I like writing. It's just so the beginning and the end. I like writing it, and then I like editing it when it's done. But that whole bit in the middle, making it, That's what I'm not a big fan of.
Well, you say it's a collaborative thing, and when you were on with Radrey sort of makes films, but I mean, yes, that aspect of it, filmmaking, always kind of like what part do you play? I mean, like you like that particular parts, but then you've got to delegate, and then you've got to sort of coordinate and have meetings and all that kind of business. And that, as you say, sort of, if you're not sort of that socially engaged, that can be a bit frustrating.
Yeah, and I've never just been a fan of being a cog in a wheel so much.
That's our artistic egos creeping through, possibly.
No. Yeah. So that's why that's why I have my own businesses, because I just can't be bothered I don't want to work on someone else's patch or whatever.
So, I mean, just as an aside, those internet businesses, that's just you behind your computer.
No, I have employees.
Oh, you have employees. All right. So you're the manager or boss, CEO, and
they're spread all over the world, so I don't have to look at them.
All right. So you sort of Zoom them occasionally.
Yeah, on occasion.
To sort of like, what's the figures this week, and what's happening and all that. Yeah.
Did you do what I asked? No, you're fired. Okay.
Okay. Oh dear. Right. Filmmaking is like a relay race. Yes. Here's the idea. You go off and film it. You go off and do the sound. You go off and do the editing, and bring it all back to me, and I'll tell you whether it's good or not.
Like I've done my time. I did some features, and I worked on some features, and blah blah blah. But it just doesn't do it for me. And I love storytelling. I really do love storytelling, and so I love script writing and songwriting. I also think is kind of storytelling. And I'm like I said, I'm doing a lot of composition right now. I'm doing a bunch of compositions for a kind of meditative spiritual group or whatever. So I'm doing instrumental pieces, but those are still a kind of story. I have a story in my head when I'm writing the piece, and all of that. But just the crap of day to day and stand over there and do this. I can't do it.
Well, we're coming towards the end of the show, and you just mentioned meditative music.
Oh my
Could we press you? Could I press you? Could the audience and I press you to wind up the show?
I'll just do some dreamy acoustic guitar noodling.
Dreamy acoustic guitar noodling with the jazz theme would be excellent for winding up the show and putting people into a relaxed mood for the remainder of the evening in Japan and the morning in America and the afternoon in Europe. Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you. And my harpsichord player friend from Princeton has just made it. So she just caught the end of that.
I'm sorry.
So you'll have to watch the replay, Joyce, to catch some wonderful music played by Phil here, otherwise known as Jazz Samurai. And that was very relaxing. And 3 people have gone. You've sent them to sleep. I don't know where they've gone. Perhaps it was because I said it was the end of the show. They sort of, all right, it's finished, gone. But that was amazing. I mean, that the show could be rounded off like that. I mean, usually it's me like blathering on, which as I'm doing now. But I'd like to thank Phil for being a very enjoyable guest. I'd like to thank the audience for being. It's a bit early in Princeton. Yes, yes, it is. It's something like 5 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast of
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Yes, so it's quite early. You didn't. Oh, no, it's all right, Joyce. It's perfectly all right. Yes, but you'll have to watch the replay to catch all the good stuff. 8 o'clock in the morning. That's reasonable. It's reasonable. But yes, thank you, Phil. Thank you, audience. As I was mentioning earlier in the show, next week we'll be live from. The guest will be live from Fukui in the dark, wandering about. And I shall be chatting with him, and that's Charlie. And I shall now end the show. And thank you for joining. Got a clap there from Joyce. There we go. And Phil will carry on noodling and consulting with his employees. Charlie no Saikatsu, Radrey, you know him. Long-term YouTuber friend, been on the show a few times, and 3 old dudes and everything, but he's been sort of absent from the YouTubes for a while, so he's back on. Okay, everybody, that's enough of me. I shall let Phil play us out with one more noodle, and I'll see you all again next week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.